This is Greg Strange with the latest in our series of business vidcasts from the Institute of Directors. And with me is Miles Templeman, who's Director General of the IoD. Miles, today we're talking red tape. The government has published the second annual edition of their action plan to tackle red tape and curb excess regulation. There's lots of publicity about it, but are they making any progress? Are they getting anywhere?
Well, the government's very good at talking about reducing the regulatory burden, but I have to say our recent survey showed that our members are not feeling any difference at all. It's rather sad given all the words and all the good nice talk, but actually all our membership say no improvement, and some of them even say it's worse.
Well, there must have been some improvement. There must be something they've achieved.
Well, you'd think so. And in fact, the government published a list today of 100 areas where they claim there has been some improvement. Now, many of them are in the pipeline and still working their way through, so you wouldn't expect them to be felt yet. But on the other hand, some of them you would have felt, would have got through. And the answer as yet is no progress. But the government is committed to it. From Brown downwards, they're working hard on it. If one looks at the positive side, they're making the right noises. They're trying to improve the civil service. But when you actually look, is the average businessman feeling a better environment and regulation? As yet, they're not.
Well, the government, of course, are politicians. They're advised, of course, by civil servants. Few of them have any real business experience. Isn't it up to you, as business people, to actually tell them what needs to be done?
We're always telling them. We're always selling them case studies. We're telling them examples of what we want improved. And they listen, and they've got a lot of sort of things in process. And the painful part of it is, despite all that effort, it never seems to become a real improvement. And let's hope maybe this list, and we're going to survey our members with details of what they claim has been improved, perhaps then we'll get some specific feedback on maybe a marginal move forward. It will only be marginal, but that'll be better than nothing.
But essentially, of course, governments and civil servants bring in regulations, they make the rules. Isn't it something of a culture shock for them to try and undo that?
You're absolutely right. It's almost in their nature to regulate. It should be the opposite. A regulation should be absolutely the last resort. You only bring in a regulation when there is absolutely no other way to solve the problem and you're not willing to put up with the risk, because it's ultimately all about risk. If you deregulate, there's a risk. We say they should take the risks more.
And finally, Miles, we are part of the EU, and given that so many of the regulations we enjoy actually begin in Brussels, shouldn't you actually be lobbying there rather than Whitehall?
We are lobbying in Brussels. That is important. Not as many of the regulations come from Brussels as the government would sometimes have us believe. But one of the sad parts is, when they do come from Brussels, the British sort of public and British business, and indeed the British government, feel that they should strongly implement all the regulations. You go to France and Germany, and you often find the regulations aren't being implemented anyway.